My name is Logan Metzger, and I'm an engineer at ASG. I also serve as the tech lead for a portion of our technical team.
So how does your work with the client, what you do with clients and what you do at ASG, how does it ultimately help patients?
So a lot of what um, I'm working on anyways is we need to make sure that when patients receive a device, that is usually a combination of plastic parts, medicine in there somehow. Um, Whenever they receive it, it works every time, and we make sure that they know it works, right? So if somewhere along that line, there's got to be a feedback to the user, right? And so you want a device that makes their life easier. So various ways to do that, but in the end, what we're doing is we're working with drugs, medical drugs to get in the body somehow. And how do we make that as reliable and as easy as possible for the end user? So improve quality of life, not only through getting the medications, but then also through the process.
There's a video on the ASG website where you talk about being a solutionist. What does being a solutionist mean to you?
Yeah, so this is a fun one, and I did kind of steal that term from someone else, so that's not new for me. Um, but I think where it originally came from and why I've kind of latched onto it is here at ASG, we often presented with maybe problems that are a little bit unique or not traditional, and we find a way to get it done. So we have certain parameters that we've got to operate within. Of course, certain guidelines and expectations, but we often, find a unique solution to get to the end goal still, but maybe not what was the original thought.
What do clients like most about working with the ASG team? Like what makes you guys different from everyone else?
Yeah, so one piece of feedback we've got recently, which I thought was kind of cool, we figured out on projects as team members come and go, we're kind of a long-term steady hand there. So that's kind of one fun thing that we've got. But I think what you'll typically find is kind of ties back to the solutionist. Sometimes we'll be in a meeting or in a group, a team setting, and it'll be kind of you hear maybe what a problem is. We have a good team that's able to pick that up and say, ooh, that was identified as an issue. We have someone or we have an idea on how to fix that. And so I think that's what keeps some of our clients coming back is usually figure out a way to get stuff done.
How does ASG's systems engineering approach come into play?
Yeah, so with systems engineering is a word you'll hear a lot now in the technical field for sure. And we try to take it to consider the whole. So as opposed to thinking about one little problem or one little aspect, what is the whole picture? And how does that play into your problem? So while you may have a solution or a consideration for your corner of the world or your corner of the problem or project, eventually it's good, even at the beginning, to step back and say, how's this interconnected to the rest of the system?
So what kind of technology do you use when you're working with clients?
So for me, honestly, it's a lot of computer work, right? We have some team members at ASG that are a little more hands-on with their role, whether it's physically testing pieces of equipment or working through making sure materials are here or there. So there is some physical work, but honestly, for me, I use my computer all day.
So how did you become interested in engineering?
So my interest in engineering probably stems back quite a ways to my childhood. I was always kind of paying attention to the world around us, how it works, trying to figure it out. And also my dad's very technical too. So I think he kind of nudged me in that direction from an early age.
So how did you come to work at ASG?
Yeah, so I started ASG in the summer of 2015. So I've been here about 6 years. Just next month I'll be 6 years. I was originally in medical equipment field, and then I came here. So it's kind of a natural transition for me.
So what's it like being an engineer?
All right, so let's walk through just a normal day and some of the interfaces I have, right? So some of my time is spent looking at risk. So how do we manage risk of the device design? There's three typical areas that we talk about a lot: design, the manufacturing process, and the user. How is the user going to introduce risk into the system? So some of the day, I spent a lot of time today actually looking through various risk analysis profiles and comparing those. There's also interface we have with medical. So I spent a lot of time this past week talking to my medical rep for a certain drug and its indication. The patient user group, what's the response going to be? How do we prevent errors there? What challenges do they have? And then a lot of my work, I also basically help compile the packages for ultimately regulatory submission, like FDA or the EU side. So we're helping compile what documentation do we need to show that the device works, it's safe, and we've done all the testing on the backside of it too. I know we have some folks that are in the labs themselves helping test devices. Personally, I do a little more of the coordination of that. So we have a couple of tests going on now, making sure they get done, making sure they have the resources they need.
All right. So what keeps you doing your job at such a high level?
So I think there's kind of two parts. We talked about the patients, and that is user patience. Sometimes it takes patience with a C though too, right? So I think in the end, the space that I got into, even from education background, was to try to help people improve their lives, and that's kind of where I'm at now. But the second part is I think I always like a good challenge, and I view a lot of what I do a challenge in one aspect or another. So I think that keeps me moving some.
Is there one example of a project that helps illustrate what's current in the field right now, or like what's typical for ASG?
Yeah, so a lot of our work has been with medical devices and just getting drug into patients, right? You'll see a shift that's happening now in our sphere that's happened everywhere else. It's the idea of connected devices and how do we not only allow for patients to get delivery of a drug product, but then also communicate back to a phone or to doctors or some space. So that's taking kind of the initial idea of just a medical device delivering a drug product and adding some software, some electronics to it to kind of go to the next step for information on the patient. Did you get what you're after? And then also medical providers, a little bit of historical there. But that's kind of where we see a lot of work shifting towards that space.